Welcome back. For the past 3 decades, Malaysia has experienced an Islamic revival. But some are worried about the increasing power of religious authorities and the enforcement of Sharia law. Now, conservative and secular Muslims are divided over Islam's role in the country. Here's our report.
For 3 decades, Malaysia has experienced a slow Islamic revival. In the last year, this revival has accelerated dramatically. Jaslina Hashim is a pop star. She's a Malaysian Muslim, but carries herself like a young Western woman. Until recently, that had never caused her trouble. Then one night earlier this year, Jaslina stayed out late in Kuala Lumpur's club district. Malaysia's religious authorities sprung a surprise raid on a disco called Zouk. Jaslina was arrested for violating Malaysia's Sharia law.
Suddenly the lights came on and my friend was like, hey, put the light back off. And then I said to my friend, I said, don't make a joke out of it, because normally when the lights come on, there's a raid. Somebody went on the stage and announced that Muslims on the left, non-Muslims can leave. But everybody had to show their IC to prove that they are non-Muslim.
It was the state religious enforcement authority, known as the Moral Police. In the past, religious raids were carried out mostly in slums or cheap motels, where Muslims were caught committing extramarital sex. They had never hit such a high-profile target. Jaslina's crime was that she was indecently dressed. It was left up to individual officers to determine exactly what that meant.
They were arrested, they were examined and made to parade in front of the religious officials to ascertain whether the dress they were wearing was decent or indecent. And they were humiliated in that process, they were sexually harassed in that process, and this is not the first time that this has happened.
Zaina Anwar is the founder of the women's rights lobby group Sisters in Islam. For years, Zaina has fought against the expansion of Sharia law in Malaysia. She was alarmed by the Zouk raid.
Many provisions in the Sharia criminal laws actually overlap with the penal code, violate constitutional guarantees of fundamental liberties, and it really goes beyond the scope of the state authorities to legislate on. And really, this needs to be reviewed, and the whole lawmaking process in the name of Islam in the country, has to be reviewed.
Malaysia's Sharia courts only have power over Muslims who make up more than half of the nation's people. The Sharia controls family law and a few religious crimes. But there are many Islamic laws which are not enforced. In theory, Muslims can be arrested for not praying 5 times a day or for drinking alcohol.
I think the Zouk raid was really a big test case. It really opened up the eyes of many people on the issue of enforcement of Sharia.
Dr. Jamila Mahmud is a Malaysian gynecologist who delivers medical aid in the world's worst crisis zones: Darfur, Aceh, Iraq, and others.
I believe that it is part of our constitution, it is part of our duties as Muslims to enjoin others to do good and forbid evil.
As a religious conservative, she believes the authorities haven't gone far enough.
I hope someone will be brave enough to say, if we are going to be, honest about implementing Sharia, then yes, go a step further to say that Muslims are not allowed into areas which have alcohol, or are not allowed to purchase alcohol.
At the heart of Malaysia's Islamic policy is the new Prime Minister, Abdullah Ahmad Badawi.
Pada kekal selama-lamanya. Tetapi daripada segi tafsirannya, tindakannya akan berubah sepanjang masa akan berubah.
He created his own brand of progressive Islam, Islam Hadhari, and won a landslide victory in last year's elections.
how much impact does Islam Hadari have on your policy decisions?
Well, a lot certainly. And the Islam Hadari is a guide, actually. It's a strategy that it does not in any way discriminate the non-Muslims, never.
The parliamentary opposition leader, Lim Kit-siang, is ethnic Chinese. He claims he was arrested for trying to keep religion out of politics.
I was arrested 3 years ago for advocating that Malaysia must remain as a multi-religious, secular, democratic nation. And as I said, such advocacy in the first 3 decades of Malaysian nationhood would not have raised any eyebrows. Now it is regarded as a bordering on being anti-national, of being un-Malaysian, of being trying to destroy the very fabric of this Malaysian nation. So I think the goalposts are being moved, and I think these are matters of very grave concern.
These days, even Muslims have to practice the state-approved form of Islam. Anything else is considered to be deviant by the religious authorities. Fear of arrest acts like a brake on public debate in Malaysia. So it was surprising when, following the Zouk raid, a forum on the public morality laws was organized in Kuala Lumpur.
The problem is immorality in our society now is rampant.
At the conference, the divide between Malaysia's Muslims and non-Muslims became clear.
I think the real conflict is whether Malaysia is a multiracial country or an Islamic country. That is the basic thing.
They have the right to criticize Islam, but at the same time, they don't have the right to teach us how we are going to practice as a Muslim.
Zaina Anwar was the keynote speaker at the conference.
The question as to what interpretation and understanding of Islam should be law must be open to public debate.
But she has no formal religious training. Because of that, many Muslims believe that she has no right to comment on Islamic laws.
Islam cannot be interpreted by the normal, person on the street. It has to be scholastic interpretations. It is a religion. I gave this example all the time to friends. We both speak English. I'm a medical person. I can give you an English textbook in medicine, and I can produce a patient and tell you, okay, treat the patient now. And you won't be able to do that properly because you haven't been taught the science of medicine.
The idea of divine law is a great challenge to Malaysia's democracy. Divine laws cannot be altered by democratic methods. They are based on the idea that sovereignty comes from God, not from the public. The push for divine leadership fueled the 1979 Iranian Revolution. For many Malaysian Muslims, the revolution was the defining moment. Back then, Dr. Mazani Alwi was a medical student studying cardiology in Queensland. Today, he is Malaysia's top child heart specialist.
I gained quite a lot in terms of learning about Islam from the Iranian Revolution. I was struck that kind of thing could happen in the second half of the 20th century, that a mullah with a beard and a turban could influence a lot of young people to rise up against the government, and some got killed in the process. So that has a lot of influence among young Muslims, including Malaysians who were abroad at that time.
Dr. Mazani is the founder of the Muslim Professionals Forum. The MPF is only 1 year old. The group lobbies on behalf of an emerging political force, Malaysia's well-educated, conservative Muslim middle class. The MPF believes that Malaysia's future should be built on the past.
We know that Islam has had its moments before in history, that it has built a civilization which was very well known for its excellence in all branches of knowledge. So I think there is no reason why we cannot emulate even a fraction of that.
We look at that move by people to liberalize Islam because their perception of being liberal is to be westernized. And I think that's a wrong perception. You do not have to be conforming to what Western traditions demand of you to be a liberated human being.
The Malay Muslims were the poor in their own country. The government has since done everything it can to empower Malays in education and in the workforce. These children are the first generation that will grow up in a Malaysia where Muslims control the balance of economic and political power. The government that helped create this group now has no choice but to cater to its interests.
Always, the middle class of the citizen of the country, they are the main group, represent the main group of the other populations. So their awareness, their understanding is very important because they are decision makers of the country. Because especially in the democratic system like ours.
Malaysia is now at a turning point. Today, Muslims who step outside the state-approved practice of moderate Islam face the threat of arrest. After the Zouk raid, Jaslina Hashim got off on technicality. A short while later, she married a New Zealander. He's now bound by all of Malaysia's religious laws. There are still many Muslims like Jaslina who want religion left out of the courts and out of the hands of politicians as a private matter between themselves and their God.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. If you have any questions or comments about the show, why don't you email us at englishnews@atv.com.hk. We'd like to hear your views. That's it from us for now. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week. I'm Anne-Marie Sim. Thanks for watching.